Today we're going to do our study of states of consciousness. And in this chapter we'll be discussing the continuum of consciousness and its various states. We'll be doing sleep, dreaming, and hypnosis, and the effects of drugs will be explored in depth next week. All right, starting at the beginning here is daydreaming. Daydreaming is one of those mental activities that doesn't require a lot of awareness. We all engage in it, and usually when we're doing something else that is automatic process that may be repetitious or boring, like a lot of times in class, you're daydreaming. Usually gets a bad rap, can actually be beneficial as a rehearsal mechanism for future planning and as a reminder of important future tasks. So a lot of times just daydreaming is just mental rehearsal. Okay, and then comes unconsciousness. Results from a total lack of sensory awareness and a complete loss of responsiveness. People can be rendered unconscious for any number of reasons. General anesthesia for surgery or getting a severe blow to the head like a boxer can cause unconsciousness. There's many different levels of unconsciousness, ranging from a temporary blackout to an enduring one called a coma. All right, then we have altered states of consciousness, which we can achieve through meditation or mind-altering drugs or sleep or dreams, or are rendered unconscious. So altered states of an altered state of consciousness is a condition of awareness distinctly different in quality or pattern from waking consciousness. Now, there's a number of ways to enter an altered state of consciousness. Drugs we'll talk about next time in depth, but I mean fever. You can just have a very high fever and be out of things. Sleep is an altered state of consciousness, and the opposite of that is sleep deprivation or going without sleep can cause this. Fasting, don't know if any of you have ever been on a prolonged fast, but that can certainly lead to altered states of consciousness. Oxygen deprivation. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a oxygen deprived environment like miners in a cave. Can be in a very low oxygen or no oxygen environment. Nitrogen narcosis probably won't be involved in that unless you're a scuba diver like me, and that's if you go, I think it's about below. It could start about 60 or 80 feet or something, where the nitrogen under pressure builds up in your body. And I've never seen anything hallucinated or anything, even though I've been to 137 feet. I just feel very calm and peaceful down there, and I like it down there. But I have heard of people that have hallucinated with nitrogen narcosis when they get down to about 200, 250 feet. And I have heard of people describe the lobsters start talking to them. Come on over here, and they wave. All right, and then there's psychosis, which is mental illness, and a temporary lobe epilepsy, and finally a traumatic accident can all lead to altered states of consciousness. Let's talk about the biological rhythm, any repeating cycle of biological activities such as sleep and waking cycles or change in body temperature. So here's a chart from Wikipedia about a typical, just an average typical biological rhythm. Again, yours could be different. This is just on average. Let's start about 6 in the morning when you wake up, and that's your sharpest rise in blood pressure at 6:45, and then the melatonin secretion stops about 7:30. Melatonin is a natural occurring body hormone, I understand, or chemical the body secretes, and that helps you sleep. So if that doesn't stop until about 7:30, that could explain why a lot of you are drowsy for a long time. Of course, about 8:30 bowel movement likely. Some of you are regulars, clockwork. For men, the highest testosterone secretions are 9 o'clock. Your highest state of alertness is at 10 o'clock, and then comes noon. Your best coordination would be at, let's see, this military time, that'd be 2:30. Your fastest reaction time would be 3:30, and your greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength happens at 5 o'clock. So maybe that has some bearing on all these, why they schedule athletic events in the afternoon. Then 6:30 is your highest blood pressure, and 7 o'clock is your highest body temperature. And at, let's see here, at, what is that? At 9 o'clock, the melatonin secretion starts, making you sleepy. And let's see here. So about, that'd be about 12:30, bowel movements are suppressed. And your deepest sleep is about 2 o'clock. And your lowest body temperature is about 4:30. That's why some of you wake up cold. And then it starts all over again at 6. That's a typical biological rhythm. Yours could be different. How much sleep do we need? And they're looking at, well, newborns sleep about 17 hours a day. And as we grow, that decreases. By age 4, we sleep about 10 hours a day. As teens and young adults, the optimal sleep time is about 7 and 8 hours. And in our 60s, it drops to about 6.5 hours. Teens and young adults, I would have thought they would have slept a lot more. They're just growing, but it says you need about 7 or 8 hours sleep. That's probably why some of you can stay up really late, and if you have to, get up really early. The 60s, I understand why it drops like that. You know, the older you get, the less active you are. The less active you are, the less sleepy you are. So it could be, you know, you just need less sleep. Babies and toddlers spend a lot of time in REM sleep than do adults. We'll get to that. And depriving ourselves of sleep has very negative effects on health and emotional mood. And that's sleep deprivation. We'll get into that. Several theories about why we sleep. There is the repair theory and the adaptive theory. The repair theory says we sleep the body. It's a restoration time. The adaptive theory says sleep has evolved to keep us from being exposed to dangerous nighttime predators. You know, so where you go hide yourself or lock in or something, I guess that's evolution theory. I go more with the repair theory myself. Okay, then there's sleep deprivation, which is being prevented from getting desired or needed amount of sleep. Sometimes you just can't sleep for whatever reason because of life circumstances. Yeah, sometimes it's a legitimate disorder where you have. The effects of sleep deprivation can lead to irritability and cognitive, that means thinking impairment, memory lapses or loss, impaired moral judgment, severe yawning, can lead to hallucinations, symptoms similar to ADHD, can't stay focused, impaired immune system, risk of type 2 diabetes, increased heart rate and variability, risk of heart disease. It's just not getting the restoration, the repair that it needs. Decreased accuracy, tremors, and aches. Yeah, you don't feel good when you're not sleeping good. And you can see some of the other bad side effects of that too. Can lead to aching muscles, confusion, memory loss, depression. You know, people can't sleep, very depressed. Hallucination, headaches, bags under your eyes, like see increased blood pressure, increased stress hormone levels, increased risk of diabetes, and fibromyalgia. That's pain, nerve pain, and they can't find anything. Irritability and obesity, and temper tantrum in children, yawning, and then, like I said before, symptoms similar to ADHD and psychosis, which leads into sleep deprivation, psychosis, a major disruption of mental and emotional functioning brought about by sleep loss. It's a loss of contact with reality. And It can lead to hallucinations and delusions. Delusions is feelings that people are after you. And catatonia, I've heard of this where you just lock up. Your body locks up and you just can't move. You can't move. You just stare straight ahead and you can't think. Also leads to thought disorders too. Okay, so how do they measure sleep? It's an electroencephalograph, which is an EEG. This is a device designed to detect, amplify, and record electrical activity in the brain. Now, it's important to note this is an EEG, an electroencephalograph, which deals with the brain. You might have heard of EKG, which is electrocardiograph, which measures, detects, amplifies, and records electrical activity in the heart. So don't get them confused. This is EEG, and the other one's EKG. That could be a test question, by the way, or exam question, I'm just saying. And this is what a typical strip of an EEG would look like, at least back in the olden days, back when they had little pens drawing these. Now these are all digital projections, but pens, the electroencephalograph, EEG, was invented in 1924 by this Hans Berger. And according to Wikipedia here, this is the first recorded, should be EEG. And that's beta. So beta is these small fast waves associated with being awake and alert. And then these are alpha. When you start relaxing and you fall asleep, you go from beta waves to alpha waves. Okay, let's look at the sleep stages too. These are levels of sleep identified by brain wave patterns and behavioral changes. So you can see overall about this levels of sleep. So you see that you start off awake, and then when you start going down, you enter REM sleep. We'll get to that. REM sleep is rapid eye movements. Muscles are active and the eyes roll slowly. So rapid eye movements is REM sleep. And then you enter, we'll get into the stages here, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then finally stage 4. Which you go through stages or cycles, which you can see from the graphic here. With stage 4, it goes to about 1:30, and then you shoot back up through stage 1 to REM sleep. And then you gradually come back down to another stage 4. And then about 4 o'clock or so, you're just in lighter sleep. Stage 3 sleep and above that, it's cycling there. And you might have brief periods of awakening. But stage 1 is a stage between sleep and wakefulness. The muscles are active, the eyes roll slowly, opening and closing moderately. So this is when you start getting sleepy. This is when little babies start rubbing their eyes, or maybe you start rubbing your eyes. And you go, oh, I'm getting tired. I should just go to bed. So that's stage 1. Okay, stage 2 gradually becomes harder to waken the sleeper. In this stage, the alpha waves of the previous stage are interrupted by abrupt activity called sleep spindles. A sleep spindle is a burst of brain activity visible on an EEG. So a good way to remember sleep stage is maybe you ladies are with your man, or you men are with your ladies, and your lady, the ladies, you're pouring your heart out to your man, and all of a sudden you look over, and their eyes are closed. And you go, are you listening to me? And they go, oh yeah, I'm listening, honey. I'm awake. I'm awake. I heard every word. Okay, that's stage 2. That's stage 2. They go, well, I was just resting my eyes, and that they're entering stage 2. And so you continue on, ladies, pouring your heart out to them. Then comes stage 3. Sleeper is less responsive to the environment. Many environmental stimuli no longer produce any reactions. So you continue pouring your heart out of them. All of a sudden they start snoring. They're in stage 3. So anyway, just kind of a funny little example, but it might have happened to some of you couples out there. Okay, and then there's stage 4, which is REM sleep. Sleeper now enters rapid eye movement, REM, where most muscles are paralyzed. Look at that. We'll get to that. Sleep marked by rapid eye movements and a return to stage 1 EEG patterns. The vital signs indicate arousal and oxygen consumption by the brain is higher than when the sleeper is awake. Okay, and an adult reaches REM sleep approximately every 90 minutes. That's why you keep cycling through it. And the lack of it will impair the ability to learn complex tasks. Yeah, you vitally need stage 4 REM sleep. You very much need this. This is healthy sleep. This is where the most restoration, the repair theory, takes place in stage 4. So if you have some kind of sleep disorder and you just, whatever, you're in pain, or you're in emotional pain or physical pain or life circumstances, stress or something, and you just don't sleep good, and it just seems like light sleep all the time, and you just go down for a little while, but then you wake back up. You're not getting to this stage 3 and 4. You're not getting good restorative sleep, and that all these bad side effects here can happen. That you just see, the vital signs indicate arousal and oxygen consumption by the brain is higher than when the sleeper is awake. That's with good stage 4 sleep. But if you don't get that far, then the brain isn't getting fed with that, nourished with that oxygen flow, which goes back to the first point here of the muscles being paralyzed. So the muscles are paralyzed, the digestive system is slowed down. So instead of the blood being flowing to the rest of the body and being used by the rest of the body, the majority of the blood and the oxygen in the blood is going to the brain, and that's why it's very nourishing to the brain and being fed. But yeah, a lack of the stage 4 sleep can lead to all kinds of mental impairment like that. It's just not a good thing. It can just lead to sleep deprivation, the irritability, and all the other side effects that come with that. So stage 4 is very good for you to get into. It's the most restful sleep there is. It's best for your body. It's best for your brain, and hopefully you don't have any problems like that. Now, if you're not getting good stage 4 sleep consistency, that's where they have sleep professionals, sleep specialists, and they can run tests on you and find that out. But we'll get more into that in a moment. But the goal is to get you restful and good stage 4 sleep. Okay, let's talk about nightmares here, because we all have them. Okay, nightmare is a bad dream that occurs during REM sleep. It can cause a very strong negative emotional response from the mind, and it can lead to fear, horror, despair, anxiety, and sadness. I know everybody I'm talking to here, you probably have nightmares. I don't know about you, but there are lots of times I've woken up, I've had a terrible nightmare, and I've woken up, and I've been so glad it was just a night. I go, oh, it was just a dream. Oh, it was just a nightmare. Thank God that wasn't real. Oh, that was horrible. That was horrible. Okay, so but that's what that is. That's a bad dream that occurs during REM sleep. Then there's theories of dream interpretation. So just to highlight this, there's Freud's theory of dream, there's extensions of waking life theory, and there's the activation synthesis theory. Lots of theories abound why we experience dreaming. Freud believed that our dreams are a way to express our repressed desire in a non-threatening way. That's very much Freudian. Others feel that dreams are just an extension of our everyday waking life. And some think that, so some people think that, just as you, the events that happen throughout the day, you carry them into sleep, you carry them into your dreams. And the same, then some think that the activation synthesis theory that says we dream because the sleeping brain is stimulated by randomly firing neuronal activity. And remember, this is supposed to be the time the brain gets fed the best blood flow, the best circulation, the best oxygen. So that could be something to that activation synthesis theory too. Okay, hope you are getting good sleep. Hope you are getting happy dreams. I really do. But then of us here that have sleep disorders, and there's all kinds of sleep disorders. There's sleepwalking. Don't know if any of you are sleepwalkers. This is where you actually get up out of bed and walk around and you're not aware of it. Had a girl in one of my classes last year said that a couple years ago there was the movie that came out, The Ring, and it was like a horror movie, and there was the Samara in the movie who had long hair that would hang down over her head, over her face, over her head, and she was in a white sleeping gown. And anyway, there was a student in one of my classes said that her sister was a sleepwalker, and one time the student was in the living room just watching television late at night, and just something out of the corner of her eye caught her eye. She looked over, and it was her sister in a white sleeping gown with her head kind of tilted forward and her hair would fall down, but she had just seen this movie, The Ring. She said, "Oh, it scared me to death." So I have heard with sleepwalkers, you shouldn't wake them up. That's what I've heard. So I have heard with sleepwalkers, you should just guide them carefully back to bed. That's what I've heard. Maybe some of you know more about that. Maybe a lot more of you are familiar with sleep talkers, sleep talking, people that talk in their sleep. And so you might have had like a brother or sister that's talking in their sleep, or if you're a significant other talking in their sleep. Could be that neuronal activity firing. Could be an extension of the waking life, like we talked about. Could be Freudian. Could be Freudian. I have heard from some people that have been around sleep talkers that they try to get them, ask them questions, but all they get back is gibberish. All they get back is gibberish. So can't carry on a conversation with them like that. Okay, I have read about sleep sex. People that get up out of bed and find a sex partner and have sex, and then they go back to bed and don't even remember it. I have read about this on the internet. Some of you out there are thinking, "Oh, that just can't be. You'd have to wake up," and it's like I don't know. I've just read about this on the internet. And then I've read on the internet and heard about sleep homicide, where someone gets up out of bed and kills someone and then goes back to bed and goes back to sleep. Somebody told me that that was a plot one time for one of the CSIs where the person murdered someone in sleep homicide and just didn't remember it. And they said they got off. They weren't convicted. That was a viable defense that they put up about that it was just in their sleep, which that's really difficult to judge about, because it's like, did they commit the murder? Yeah, but were they awake when they committed the murder, so they knew what they were doing? No, they were asleep. They didn't know what they were doing. So it's like the one person, it's like, they didn't know what they were doing, but they did commit the murder. And boy, what about the victim's family? Oh, I'm sure that'd be very, very difficult. So anyway, I've just heard of that, and I've read about it, but that's as much as I know about that. Okay, then there's insomnia. This is difficulty getting to sleep and staying asleep, and you can see it's pretty much mirrors the effects of sleep deprivation, because that's what it is. That's what it is basically. Uh, Disorder is sleep apnea. This is repeated interruptions of breathing during sleep. And there's two factors to sleep apnea. Uh, Factor number one is your tongue collapses back and blocks off the airway, and you can see that in the picture. That's one of the factors to sleep apnea. The other factor is you just stop breathing. You just stop breathing. So you know, probably the most horrible example is like sudden infant death syndrome. A lot of times they think that the little babies just stop breathing, and they don't know. They stop breathing when they're sleeping in the night or something, and unfortunately, little babies pass away. But that's what can happen to an adult too, where they just stop breathing. So either way, whether their tongue collapses back, blocking off the airway, or the person stops breathing, they wake up choking. Sometimes they're aware of them waking up choking, and sometimes people aren't aware that they have multiple uh, episodes of waking up choking in the middle of the night, trying to breathe again, but they don't remember it. This all happens when they're asleep, but obviously they are not getting good, restful stage 4 sleep, and they wonder why they wake up and they just feel miserable when they wake up, and they feel more tired when they woke up after 8 hours or 10 hours of sleep than they did when they went to sleep, and it just gets worse and worse every day. So that's sleep apnea. For that, like I said, you go to a sleep center, a sleep specialist. You might have to get a prescription from your doctor for this, and they put you on this breathing machine, and it's positive airflow. And what it is, it's like breathing into a balloon or breathing into crimping off one end of a hose, and then breathing into the other end of the hose, and it expands the airway. Where it's like your breath into a balloon, how the balloon expands. So the positive airflow, the air pressure, forces oxygen, forces the air into the lungs. So if they stop breathing, they're still getting their lungs are still getting fed. That's number one. But number two, if their airflow is being choked off, collapsed, it forces that to stay open too. So the uh, the breathing machine here, the sleep apnea machine, or they call it the CPAP, it is very useful tool for a lot of people. Now, some of you looking at this picture here might be wondering, it's like, how in the world can you sleep with that? And it's like the it's just the best options out of two bad options. So number one, you can keep waking up choking throughout the night, and that's going to cause all those insomnia, sleep deprivation, bad side effects. Or you can get used to sleeping with this mask on here, and probably get some restful stage 4 sleep, which is good. So uh, anyway, you can get used to this. You can get used to this. Uh, but although a lot of people do fight it, but it's like, yeah, well, what's your options here? So considering the options, this is the best option to go with. But yeah, either one you don't want, but this is the one you might have to go with. So they can't breathe, but one is unable to react due to paralysis. I think a lot of that alien abduction uh, that you see on Discovery and Science Channel and History Channel, a lot of those shows, I really think a lot of that alien abduction syndrome is probably just sleep paralysis and the terrifying visions. But you hear about the intruder in the room. There's somebody in the room. They sense an evil presence, and it's terrifying. And yet they can't move. They can't scream. They can't call for help. They can't move at all. And then they go on from there to describe other kind of bizarre things, which could be uh, during sleep and could be nightmarish. But I just really think that a lot of that is just this sleep paralysis. Yeah, also in the book it talks about hypnosis. Concept of hypnosis first came to our attention in the late 1700s. It was invented by Anton Mesmer and claimed he could cure certain ailments by using a force he called animal magnetism. Now, for a long time, they didn't call it hypnosis; they called it mesmerism. You know, and you can still that term is still used today. They call it mesmerized. It was like, wow, I was just watching this movie or watching this event, and I was mesmerized by it. That's where that came from, Anton Mesmer. Today we call the process hypnosis. It's a procedure where a professional will suggest a change in our sensation and perception and even our behaviors. This is a legitimate form of therapy, hypnosis, and it's you have to be highly trained and highly certified to be able to do this. Not one of my favorite forms of therapy personally to recommend to people. I've never recommended hypnotherapy to people, but that's just my own personal opinion. There's other people that swear by it, and and anyway, but yeah, it is a legitimate form of therapy, though it is. Can you be hypnotized? There are different levels of suggestibility and your susceptibility to them, whether you be hypnotized or not. Although I have heard most recently that there are people that it's like, oh, well, I can never be hypnotized. I've been to a therapist, or I've been to these shows and I've been the subject, and they can't hypnotize me. And I have heard, that anybody can be hypnotized. So even if, but it depends on the skill of the hypnotist. So just something to think about. Just something to think about. Yeah. Some say let me start that again. Some say hypnosis is an altered state of consciousness where the person is disconnected from reality. Others say it's just a special ability that some have to respond to imaginative suggestions by doing what they feel is expected of them. Anyway, just a couple theories of that. Deep sleep. Hypnotic induction refers to the process of putting someone into a hypnotic state. It requires a sense of trust, extreme concentration on an object or sound, and then the suggestion as to what you will experience. And I've heard different from this. I know the book says it's important to remember you cannot be made to do something under hypnosis that's against your moral standards, but I mean, I have heard some talk that I don't know. Bottom line is, I don't recommend hypnotherapy, but other people do, and other people swear by it, and it is above all a legitimate form of therapy. So, behaviors when you're hypnotized, there's no pain, or you just don't remember. Okay, so. There's a wide range of behaviors associated with hypnotic state. Hypnoanalgesia is the ability to control the sensation of pain. That would be very useful. I mean, my stance on anyone in pain, and like medical sciences can't help them and they're experiencing pain. Anything that'll bring them pain relief. I mean, just fine, just do it. So, I mean, if they're in intense pain and they try hypnotherapy, and it relieves them of the pain, well, that's fine. That's good. Okay, there's post-hypnotic amnesia. It's not remembering what happened during hypnosis, if you've been directed or not. And then imagined perception is a process of perceiving a stimuli is totally different from the real one. For instance, you're told to smell a rose, but it'll smell like a skunk, and you sniff it and recoil in disgust. I suppose post-hypnotic amnesia might be useful if you have some particularly traumatic memory. So probably again, now you're getting into the useful therapy aspect of it. So anyway, that's it for this discussion on altered states of consciousness, specifically sleep. And thank you for your attention.